How you guys hear me? Good. Okay. All right. Well, get ready to begin our meeting. Good morning, members of the MAG Human Service and Community Initiative Committee. As a reminder, please turn your mics on and clearly state your name before speaking to ensure that the members of the audience can hear you. And please mute your mics when you're not speaking to eliminate any feedback. A voice vote or roll call vote will be taken for each action item on the agenda. Phone-only attendees will need to press 6 to unmute themselves. We will now begin the meeting and with a roll call of all members. Kelly?
Thank you, Councilmember Navarro. Councilmember Wally Campbell. Councilmember Ali Klein.
Sorry, I'm muting. I'm here.
Thank you. Councilmember Tina Condi. I should say Vice Chair Tina Condi.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Monica Dorsey.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councilmember Jen Duff.
Here.
Thank you. Councilmember Christina Ellis.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Steve Gallardo. Councilmember Barry Graham. Councilmember Janine Guy.
Present.
Thank you. Councilmember Bill Patena. Vice Mayor Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
Thank you. And Chair Joel Navarro.
Here.
Thank you. You have quorum.
Okay, thank you. Call to the audience. MAG provides the opportunity for members and the public to submit written comments via MAG website. Comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting will be shared with committee members in advance of the meeting. An opportunity for public comment on the agenda was provided ahead of the meeting. Kelly, did we receive any public comments?
Chair, we did not receive any public comments on any of the items on today's agenda.
Okay, perfect. Thank you on that. Approvals. Approval of July 13th, 2023 minutes. Are there any questions before we request an approval of minutes? Anybody have any objections or any questions of the minutes from last meeting? Seeing none, do I hear a motion for approval?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes.
There is a move. Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Councilmember Condi.
Okay, Councilmember Condi, thank you. We do have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Hearing none, that does pass. We'll have those participants in the meeting online. Okay, we already did it. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we have approval. All right, we're going to go to the next item, number 4, Chandler Connect. The city of Chandler operates a comprehensive homeless navigation program called Chandler Connect. The program assists persons experience unsheltered homelessness in Chandler to obtain permanent housing and supportive service necessary to maintain long-term stability. Rihanna Blatch is going to, from Community Resources Senior Manager, will provide an overview of the program. And we'll go ahead and start.
Okay, thank you so much, Chairman Navarro. This is, hi, everybody. I'm Ryan Balch. I'm with the City of Chandler Neighborhood Resources Department. And today I'm just going to provide you an overview of the directly operated homeless services that the City of Chandler provides. Next slide, please. Thank you so much. So I thought I'd start with just an overview of homelessness in the region and how Chandler compares to that. And so this great data is provided by MAG, by the staff that you're working with closely here. And it is regional data collected by all cities and towns and nonprofit agencies. So, and it is the newest kind of data we have. We no longer rely just on the point in time count data that you might be very familiar with that just counts homelessness at a point in time on one day a year around our region. But instead, we have a much more comprehensive data source now. Everybody uses, and you might be familiar with, the Homeless Management Information System. And that actually tells us day in and day out in real time how many people are entering our homeless service delivery system and how many people are exiting our homeless service delivery system and where they're exiting to. So this data is from that database. And as you can see, the blue line represents the total number of persons who experienced homelessness each month in the last fiscal year. I just used a year to give you a comprehensive picture of what a year looked like. And you can see that it was anywhere between 5,500-ish and topping out around 6,300 over that last fiscal year. And you can see the orange and blue lines represent the number of singles and the number of persons and families in Maricopa County. That green line represents Chandler. So while in the region we had a total of around 6,300 people ending in June, in Chandler we average about 300 persons at any given moment experiencing homelessness, and that's the population that we are working with. Next slide. The key things to know about the data in our system right now, and again, this was last fiscal year, but I think that gives a good representation of where we're at, is that more people are entering our homeless service delivery system than are exiting our homeless service delivery system right now. And that has to do with simple supply and demand. There is not enough housing at any income level right now. It doesn't matter if you want to buy a $3 million house or you want to buy a $100,000 house or you want to rent a $1,500 apartment. There's not enough stock. There's more people that need the housing than there is stock. So when we're serving people experiencing homeless, there's simply not enough places for them to go. That's not the only issue, but it is the overwhelming issue. In addition, we're having lots of new people experience homelessness. So this is no longer just an issue of people experiencing chronic homelessness, people that you have been homeless for years, although that absolutely is still a very significant problem that we are concerned about and working on. Many new people are experiencing homelessness each month and each year. In this last fiscal year, over 970 new families experienced homelessness in our region. Next slide. Over the last year, over 28,000 people were served in our homeless service delivery system, whether that was through street outreach, emergency shelter, or transitional shelter. Over 28,000 people in Maricopa County received services. In Chandler, we served just about 7,000 unduplicated people experiencing homelessness last year. And again, you can just see that breakdown of who are individuals and who are families. Next slide. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about what we do in Chandler. We do have a full continuum of services in Chandler, and we do that through both directly operated programs and through partnerships with our nonprofit organizations. So our services in Chandler start with outreach and engagement, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about our Chandler Connect outreach team in a minute. That is out on the streets 7 days a week, serving people experiencing homelessness and trying to engage them in services. We also do heat relief. We participate in Operation Blue Ride, which is specifically outreach and navigation paired with police on our transit system. And then we also have a crisis response team, both in fire and in police, alongside our navigators working 7 days a week. We also have several types of temporary accommodations in Chandler. We operate our own non-congregate shelter program, so I'll talk a little bit about that in the slides to come. We do have an iHelp program, which is a network of churches that operate in the East Valley that provide emergency shelter overnight in our community, and we also have a DV shelter in Chandler. We do not have a fixed congregate shelter program in our community, but we do provide funds to nonprofits in neighboring cities that do have those. Once we get past that emergency stage, we also have 2 directly operated transitional and permanent programs in our community. We have a tenant-based rental assistance program in which we partner with our public housing authority, which we directly operate. in Chandler. And we also support rapid rehousing in our community, and I'll be talking a little bit more about those. And then moving into the permanent housing, we have emergency housing vouchers, specifically for people experiencing homelessness. We have VASH vouchers for veterans. And of course, we have our Housing Choice voucher program, and we do have a preference for people experiencing homelessness. We also have public housing and affordable housing, and we are in the midst of expanding our affordable housing assets in Chandler, so that's very exciting. And then along with that I'll tell you a little bit about today, we have intensive housing stability services that go along with our actual housing assets to ensure that people learn how to live in permanent housing and can be sustainable and maintain their housing over time. Next slide. So this is our community navigation team. They are definitely a highlight in the city of Chandler. They are 8 people strong. We have a supervisor, her name is Misty Gustafson, and then 7 navigators. These are all Chandler employees. We do not do this through a partnership with a nonprofit. These are Chandler employees, and they operate services 7 days a week for 13.5 hours each day from 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. They are the ones that do the street outreach, whether it's on the street, near a business, in a park, in a wash, wherever people are experiencing homelessness, that's where they go. They also operate our non-congregate shelter program, which is called Operation Open Door, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. They operate our support court, which helps people experiencing homelessness get through their justice issues through services. And then we have another team I'll tell you about in a minute, our housing stability team that makes connections with landlords and then serves people once they're in housing. Our entire team have lived experience. That's extremely important to our model, meaning that they have all been homeless, suffered or dealt with mental health concerns, substance use disorder, all variety of, and interaction with the justice system. They've all been there and recovered, and so they are the best people to do the work that they do. They all also have professional credentials. They're all BHTs, so they're behavioral health technicians, and then they're also all certified as peer support specialists. And they have different ones have also other different kinds of certifications, like a SOAR certification, which is something that helps people get fast track to benefits. So they have all kinds of different professional credentials. Next slide, please. So these are the outcomes from our Chandler Connect program, which is the outreach program in the last fiscal year. So we served 717 persons during that year, 621 households, and they had 75% positive outcomes. So those outcomes, as you can see, 8% were diverted directly from homelessness to non-homelessness. So whether that was sending them to a friend or family member in another state to be housed, whatever that looked like. 43% were able to get into the formal shelter system in our region, either here in Chandler or somewhere else in the region. 11% went to an institutional setting. So that might have been a treatment setting, a mental health setting, somewhere where they were going to get a next level of care. And 13% went right into permanent housing from the streets. 25% we would classify as other, which means we do sometimes have deaths in our program. And unfortunately, that is not considered a positive outcome. Or we were not in contact with them at the 90-day point when we decided to, when we exited from the program. Next slide. So Operation Open Door, that is our non-congregate program. That is really where it's at in terms of in enhancing outcomes. We had 94% positive outcomes from that program last fiscal year. We served 151 households. We served many families in that household. So in that program, in total, we served 306 people last fiscal year through that program. You can see that 36% of them went to permanent housing after they were in our non-congregate shelter program. 30% went to shelter. So sometimes we're using that as a bridge to family shelter that can then move them on into a more permanent setting. let's see, 25% were diverted to permanent housing through a family or friend. Next slide. And then this is our housing stability team. So they are 3 people strong. And this is the team that engages landlords in our community. And that is really where we've been very successful in engaging a whole new group of people to teach them about our programs and incentivize them to work with us. So we have provided landlords incentives. We do lots of things. We have celebration events. We do quarterly coffees. We do all these things to engage our landlords and show them that working with us and working with our clients can be very positive in terms of them having clients that are paying rent and clients that have support, people that have support in housing. And we've been very successful with that. We also provide, so we reach out to landlords so we have a good base of housing to refer our clients to. Then we support those landlords all along the way. We help each tenant find their housing. So we do housing search and selection with each tenant, and then we provide move-in assistance, and that can look like everything from getting them from wherever they are now to where they're going. Could be a moving truck, could be a group of volunteers. It also provides the basic things that they need when they move into an apartment. So pots, pans, shower curtains, mattresses, furniture, all of the things that people who have lost their home or perhaps have not had a home for a long time don't have. So we make sure they're comfy in their homes. And then we start the intensive case management process. So a lot of times once people move in is when we really start to get to the bottom of what led to their homelessness. And then we start to really uncover the trauma that they have from their past experiences. So now we're uncovering the trauma, figuring out what services they really need, whether that's behavioral health, general health care. A lot of times people are in very bad health when they move into housing. So we start to repair their health and connect them to ongoing services, and then help them deal with whatever crisis has come along so they don't lose their housing again. And then really trying to integrate them into their community by connecting them to church, to friends, to their local grocery store, to the transit system around them, all the things that they're going to need to be stable and secure in their housing. And then of course, hopefully over time, the needs start to reduce, but we're always there for follow-up care. Next slide. So this is our success rate in the housing stability case management piece. So again, we support our tenant-based rental assistance program. That's up to 2 years of subsidy and intensive case management services. We run that through our PHA. Actually, we run all of these programs through our PHA. Our emergency housing vouchers, we have about 25 people in TBRA at any given time. We have 28 people in our emergency housing vouchers at any given time. And then in our housing choice vouchers, we serve the people that are most at risk of recidivizing to homelessness. And so in the last fiscal year, we served 63 households with 85 persons in them, and we had 94% positive outcomes. So in other words, they either stayed housed, or in the case of tenant-based rental assistance, were able to move on to a higher level of care. So that has 94% positive outcomes. So that is something we want to continue to invest in. Next slide, please. I'm sure like many of you, we also operated heat relief this year. We were very fortunate to be funded by Maricopa County. We partnered with the city of Mesa this last year to do a regional program. These are stats through halfway through September. We did run through the end of September. And as you can see, we served almost 3,000 people. I'm sure we did serve 3,000 people when we get to the end of the year. Just in heat relief. So this is another opportunity for for us to engage people, to make sure that people are able to get out of the heat of the summer. I'm sure you've all been hearing lots about the number of deaths that we had during this heat wave. So these are critical services that we hope to continue with the county support. In each city, we had a day center open 5 to 7 days a week, depending on the city. We also had 10 cooling stations in each city. And then we also had a mobile heat relief on days that we had heat warnings. In Chandler, we had 411 unduplicated people use the services over the summer, and they used them, over 3,000 times. So it's a very important service and one that we intend on enhancing and continuing over the years. Next slide, please. This is the last service I'm going to talk about today. In Chandler, we do have a Change Up campaign, and this is a panhandling awareness campaign, and it's really about healthy giving. So the intent of this campaign is not to criminalize homelessness, but to provide residents a more healthy way to give. So the average longevity of somebody who lives on the street is age 47. So that's a very short lifespan. So we do not want to encourage people to continue living on the street. And when people are giving just $1 outside of their car window, that is enabling the person or allowing the person who is panhandling to continue to live on the street. And we know that that's literally fatal. So we want to encourage people to come into services. So this campaign, if you text the word Change Up to 44321, it is a way to continue your giving. We don't want to reduce giving. We want to just make sure that giving goes to a service that is going to help somebody's quality of life. So if you do that, those dollars go to a nonprofit that we work with called For Our City Chandler. And then those dollars, our outreach team are able to access those dollars and use them for things that like government funds don't support, like buying, our navigators will go to somebody who's panhandling and say, hey, can I buy you lunch today? Let's go chat. Can I buy you coffee? What do you need? And let's go chat. So it comes with services. And that's a great way that we can engage people to start utilizing our services. It's a text to donate program. And next slide, I'll show you what we've brought in over the years. So we started this in fiscal year 18-19. You can see that we've had a steady increase of funds over the years. Sorry about that. And in 23-24, we've already raised over $12,000. So those, again, are unrestricted funds that are available to our navigators to do some of the engagement that they do. It also pays for things like hearing aids, glasses, a TB test that we might need to get somebody into shelter. It's all those random things that we need to help somebody right away and engage them in services. So it's been an excellent campaign, and it continues to go well. So we're proud of that. Next slide. I think that's the last slide. Yep. So that's just a very quick overview of what we're doing in Chandler. We're very proud of our programs, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Brianne, thank you so much. This is really great information. Do we have any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Who we got? I don't see his
this
screen.
is Councilmember Dorsey.
Councilman Dorsey, go ahead.
Ryan, can you tell us a little bit more about this open door program and clarify for me more about what a non-congregate setting is at that stage?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. So non-congregate shelter is a shelter where somebody has their own room. So a congregate shelter, right?
Okay.
People have to sleep either on the floor or in cots, and there's many, many people. And
Okay.
for a population of people experiencing homelessness where there may be mental health concerns, substance use disorders, past trauma, physical concerns, it can be very difficult for people to be in a mass setting. Also, there's other challenges like, where do you store your belongings? What if you have a pet? What if you have a family or a partner? There's other reasons that people don't do well in a congregate setting. So we in the city of Chandler have been utilizing hotels, and we do that by leasing. Some cities have been doing that via purchasing a hotel and operating that themselves. In Chandler, we have opted to go into contract with several local hotels. And then so we lease from them on a monthly basis. And then if you're eligible, and we try to treat our most vulnerable people, so the people that cannot do not do well in a congregate setting, are the people who are eligible for our program. And we serve anywhere we try our we've served anywhere up to 40 residents or 40 rooms a night, down to 20. Our sweet spot seems to be about 25 rooms a night is where we are having the most success. We have 2 navigators that are dedicated to that program. So they are they see those clients, they're available 7 days a week. And it's very important that we're seeing those clients several times a week because it's a short-term solution, right? Put them into non-congregate shelter, get to the bottom of what they need, and then we want to be moving them on to permanent housing from there. So we're utilizing all of our resources, whether it's our TBRA program, an EAP voucher, or another setting in the community. With families, it's a little harder. We really are relying on that family shelter system. We're really utilizing this program as a bridge because I mean, if we can, we will get them into housing. We're always working towards that, but we also require families to get on the regional family shelter list because family housing for families is even harder to come by. So we're using all of our resources, and sometimes we're using it as a bridge to the regional system. But what we find is the regional system has about a 9-week, it ebbs and flows, but wait list, and we're just not going to leave a family on the street overnight. So it is serving as a bridge. So again, we're bringing them. It depends on their level of need, right? Some of them we need to bring food to. We're getting them into medical services. We're working on their documentation. So they may have lost birth certificates, IDs. We're connecting them to benefits. If they can be employed, we're working on employment right away. We don't wait a second to start all of the things that somebody needs to be housed. But it's so much easier for us because they have day services. A lot of our congregate settings don't have a day service. So like in our iHelp system, right? People can get shelter overnight, but they have nowhere to be in the day. So it's very hard to work with someone when they don't have stability. They don't have a home base to work from. So non-congregate shelter for us has been very effective.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes, this is Councilmember Jan Duff from Mesa. I
Councilmember?
have a couple more questions regarding the open door. I was wondering how long you've been operating that, and maybe I missed it. I apologize if that started during COVID.
Yeah.
And how do you support it financially?
Great question. So we sure did. We started it during COVID with COVID specific funds, first from the CARES Act and then from the American Rescue Plan Act. And our city council has been a great champion of this program, and they have also allocated some general funds towards this program when we have a gap. Now, I always have about a year ahead of me. So each year I'm looking at how am I going to continue to fund this program. The state has just come out. In fact, I have staff on the webinar right now with about $40 million for shelter. I'll be applying for some of those funds to continue operating this. So I'm constantly looking at how we will continue to operate this program. So I would say it's a combination of grant funds and support from our city council with local dollars.
Great. And so are you looking at any permanent, like some cities are buying hotels?
Yeah, we have not discussed that option with our city council yet. Of course, we'll take their direction if that's something they want to look at in the future. Right now, we're operating through leases.
Okay, and I'll just make another comment on the heat relief services. Thank you very much for contributing to, the heat relief centers. I did take a tour of Resurrection Ministries in the summer, and I know those funds are up. I'm putting it out there to my city, and I'm just going to express it to the other cities online as well, is that these centers have made so much difference. Even though we've had so many heat related deaths, I can't imagine if we didn't have these centers. They're well run, so they have police there. They have that's Resurrection. They have CBI to connect them with the services and supplies and things that they need to stabilize. I think maybe we just need to continue the relief centers, maybe weather relief center. I don't know. I would love to see it continue, because what happens is I noticed after we've been doing this a couple of years now, after the relief centers, the heat relief centers close, then we see an upswing in our parks. And in our parks, it's much more difficult to reach the people, have the conversations, to be able to get them out of the situation of homelessness. So I'm just putting it out there just because. Thank you very much for your work on this. I appreciate your assistance in this on homelessness.
Thank you, and thank you guys for your partnership on heat relief this year.
I have a quick question, Mr. Chair. I know that the Vice Mayor just spoke about asking about whether we're gonna buy a hotel. Ryan, can you talk a little bit about the way that we are diversifying our portfolio when it comes to housing and where we are right now? Because we're in the middle of trying to build more and doing different things ourselves versus buying hotels.
Yes, so we on our PHA, our Public Housing Authority, is embarking on a rental assistance demonstration project, which is a HUD tool to expand or I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, enhance your affordable housing assets. So in the city of Chandler, we have 5 public housing sites. And they were built in the early 1970s. And so they're sort of beyond their useful life in terms of, you know, it doesn't make sense for us to invest financially in them anymore. And in the 1970s, we built in a very different way. We didn't build for density, the density that we have now. So we're using this tool that HUD provides, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Project, or RAD, to invest and expand our affordable housing. So we, with council support, will be and also support of hopefully the Department of Housing as we apply for funds. But also Maricopa County has already given us an extremely generous amount of money, $10 million to invest in this project. We will be rehabbing or actually rebuilding in many cases our public housing sites, and you know, I don't know if I can say probably tripling the amount of housing that we have for affordable housing. So it's very important that while we continue all of our emergency efforts on the side of homelessness, that we're also building that sticks and bricks housing, because again, as I said earlier, we have a supply and demand issue, and we've got to build the supply ultimately to end this issue. So we got to do both sides of the table here. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
This is Councilmember Condi. Ryan, thank you so much for your presentation. You guys are doing amazing work in Chandler, and it sounds like it's a very successful model. Here in Avondale, we recently started our Sonar, which is very similar to your outreach team. We have navigators that go into the community, and we actually had a discussion yesterday because what I felt like we already had case management within the navigators, but they're really there to connect clients to resources, that we don't really have that case management piece, which I think is so critical. You know, these families need someone to come beside them and give them little nuggets of assignments to do to achieve their goals of getting out of homelessness. So do your navigators do any type of case management?
Yes. So Councilwoman, thank you for the question. That is where our housing stability team comes in. So our navigators are very intensive, right? They're getting the person. So first of all, they're having that ongoing relationship that they build with people, and they walk them all the way through to the point where they've got a housing asset in their hand, whether it's a voucher or they're going to be able to independent pay or whatever. And then they hand them off to our housing stability team. And that housing stability team has built those relationships with the landlords. And then they take that person and then they help them go search and select the housing that's right for them. It's very important that you don't just throw just whatever housing at someone. It's got to be in the right location. It's got to be have the right community assets about it to make it successful for that person. Otherwise, they just leave it and come back to where they're familiar. And then they stick by them while they get accommodated to that housing. Many people have either lived unstably or lived unhoused for so long They don't know how to navigate the things that come along with housing, the disputes with neighbors, the letters they get at their door about fixing something, when to be quiet, not having guests in their house. All these little things easily become big crises that will get somebody unhoused again if not addressed. So we found that sticking by them really reduces recidivism and gets them on that path to really sustaining their housing independently. So that is a new piece that we know is beyond important to the actual success. So there's no point in doing all this work up front if once you get someone to housing, they can't stay in it. So that intensive case management and that relationship with landlords has been so important. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I just want to say, I admire your passion. You know, it's contagious, you know,
Thank you.
really trying to address some of those issues in the West Valley with our unsheltered population, and while providing it with dignity and respect is so important to us in our city. And it sounds like you guys are doing a wonderful job in Chandler, and I'll definitely have staff reach out to you.
Absolutely. We love to show people around, have people do ride-alongs. I work with people in Avondale who are very passionate about what they do. So I know you guys are doing great things in all the cities, really. If COVID did one thing, it brought us all together and we're all sharing and helping each other. And it's amazing.
Mr. Chair. Ryan, are we still working with this program where, excuse me, someone entered the program and then when they graduate and finish, at that point, they're able to buy a house to move into their own home?
So that is the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. That's part of our Public Housing Authority program. So through in our public housing, we have what's called a Family Self-Sufficiency Program, and families opt into it, and they work with our housing specialists. Those are different than our housing stability specialists that are really focused more on people who were coming into housing that were experiencing homelessness. But the housing specialists on the PHA side, they work with people to save money, get better employment, do all those things while they're in public housing. And then we will match the money they have saved for them to buy their first home. So yes, that program is alive and well in our Public Housing Authority.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, Brianna, I have to tell you, thank you. This is great information. Like you just said, like we know, this is stuff that we need to steal from every city. There's bits and pieces that we all have.
Yes.
And I know MAG and just reaching out to the cities will help you guys find those resources for sure. But at the end of the day, we all have to do our part. This is not a Chandler issue. It's not a Tempe issue. It's not a, Scottsdale, Avondale, all that stuff. It's everyone's issue as a region. So I think this is great. The coordination, how we're sharing this information. Please take advantage of this. Last night, we just had a housing discussion in Tempe, which to the point, shortage. But yet people are like, you need affordable housing. We understand that, but we need all housing. And then affordability hopefully will transit. Now, this is not a over the night fix, though, is what the problem is. But we do have programs too with developers giving us money to donate towards affordable housing. That program has raised us in promise notes up to $17 million in 3 years. So it is tremendous what you guys can do, but like steal that from us. Pre-K program, steal that from us. Advantages to housing, advantages to people getting work while their kids are in pre-K. So a lot of information out there. Please take advantage of it, and let's try to help each other. So moving on. Thank you. It was great. Okay. Pathways to Home update. On December 8th, 2021, Pathways to Home, a regional action plan for local and tribal government, was unanimously approved by the regional council. Since approval, MAG has begun working with the local jurisdiction committee, other Maricopa regional continuums of care boards and committees, and also community partners to implement the steps of the plan. Dylan Belmont, MAG's Human Service Planner, will be providing an update on the progress of the Pathways of Home, including timelines, partnership, and next steps. Dylan, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair Navarro and the committee. My name is Dylan Belmont. I'm a Human Services Planner here at MAG. Happy to be here today to share just a few updates on some major milestones of Pathways Home, which is, like you said, sort of the regional action plan for local and tribal governments to end homelessness. So I won't repeat the incredible information that Ryan just shared briefly a minute ago. We're familiar with the issue of homelessness in our region, right? There's this statistic recently that MAG developed, which is 19 people coming into homelessness for every 10 who find housing, right? So this issue is exponentially increasing without the resources to address it. And we've seen this develop over time, right? And across the region. It's not, like you just said, Chair Navarro, it's not just a issue that affects a single jurisdiction. It's something that big and small, right? And this is a population that we're talking about that oftentimes is cross-jurisdictional in and of itself. So with that in mind, right, the response to it really does need to be regional. There needs to be conversations between jurisdictions. Nice. And we'll zoom out right there. And that brings us to what Pathways Home ultimately is trying to accomplish. So just a brief refresher on what this plan exactly is. Back in late 2020 and early 2021, MAG staff and other community partners conducted a series of research and reports to really pin down on what potential strategies jurisdictions could implement in order to address homelessness. And, not only hearing from the needs of jurisdictional staff, but also, individuals with lived experience and service providers to really see where an impact could be made. Those strategies ultimately informed and shaped what Pathways Home became, which was then approved in the end of 2021 by MAG Regional Council. Ultimately, the goal of Pathways Home is to, reduce homelessness by 25% by 2027, the year 2027. And what that looks like in practice is really outlining all of the steps that build capacity to reduce homelessness, so that jurisdictions have the tools and the templates available in order to make a difference, right? Through building partnerships, through dedicating funding to certain programs. And that comes in the form of 3 main action steps. So what we're going to look at today is just a few of those milestones that have come out since the plan was approved in December. So the first action step is really coordinating regionally, making sure that everyone is talking. 2 of those main accomplishments, I know you have heard a few presentations in this committee by now about the public education campaign, which recently launched, really looking to provide standardized language when talking about attainable rents and mortgages in the community. Also have made a ton of progress in making sure that both data on homelessness and the funding that goes into it is more comprehensive and also more accessible by jurisdictions in order to inform these decisions moving forward. In terms of data, we're not only looking at the number of sources available, because of course homelessness is a complex issue with so many different facets. It's difficult sometimes to get an accurate picture, right? So making sure that there are plenty of different opportunities to look at what's happening, and also making sure that data literacy is available and constantly increasing. So we're utilizing the same definitions, and everyone is on the same page of what we're actually looking at. And in terms of funding, each year jurisdictions send in letters of commitment to MAG that describe the actions that they're taking in order to address homelessness, which really informs everyone as to what the need is, right? Like what is being committed right now, and what left is there to work on. The second action step is increasing housing options. Ultimately, how do you address homelessness? Increasing housing options, right? And so in order to meet that goal of reducing homelessness by 25%, something that the plan really drills into is understanding the breadth of need. So on the Pathways Home website, which I'll touch on in just a little bit, there is a running total of what the need is, and what the number of new housing developments that have come online. So you're able to see that disparity, and those targets are reevaluated quarterly. Two of the main accomplishments in this specific action area within this past year, an evaluation has been completed on Maricopa's coordinated entry system. This is essentially the system that allows for individuals who are seeking services to access those services, and so they can be prioritized and referred to what's appropriate to them. Now, this evaluation really looked at just how effective our system is, and if there are opportunities for growth, and sure enough, there are, right? And so really allows our region to better understand how to fix that. One of the main outcomes, which is being worked on right now, I'm sure Kelly could say way more about this than I can. But ultimately, the prioritization tool that has been being used to assess individuals has some room for becoming more effective and equitable, right? And so really, should make a big difference as to just how effective coordinated entry is once that is piloted and implemented. And also similar to, what Chandler does with landlord engagement, there's also Threshold, a program by Home Inc. that's accessible to jurisdictions throughout the country where, when we're talking about increasing housing options, it doesn't necessarily always have to be building new housing. It's also how can we make existing housing options available to individuals experiencing homelessness. So really working with apartment complexes and property managers to make sure that incentives are in place to work with individuals experiencing homelessness, and that there are risk mitigation funds, and just increasing those options, right? Making sure that they can access them. And lastly, action item number 3, supporting diverse partnerships. Now, what this step encompasses is really that idea of homelessness being complex and cross-sector. It's not just human services departments that are dealing with this issue. It's also law enforcement and every department in a city, right? And so how do we make sure that those conversations are occurring between jurisdictions, within jurisdictions? So one of the major things to encourage that is a series of toolkits and templates that really sort of define how that could look. Just a few examples here. There's an employer toolkit that recently launched that can be shared with businesses who are open to hiring individuals who either recently experienced homelessness or are currently, in order to give those tools of what are some common issues you might run into, or what challenges might you face? Here's how you can address them so those aren't barriers anymore. The one on the right there in the orange is the community court toolkit. This is a really cool example of a program that the city of Mesa was seeing a lot of success with. okay, how do we replicate that in other jurisdictions? What's the framework for that? And then how do we translate that to where, maybe a city isn't exactly like Mesa, they might need to shift their model. So who are points of context that they can reach out to? Really all of this to say, there are just so many cross-learning opportunities that these tools really encourage and can help move forward. And then what if I told you that Pathways Home in general, right? This huge jurisdictional collaboration is one piece of an even larger network of collaborations between not only jurisdictions, but also direct service providers and funders, advocates, everyone in this space, right? That would be the continuum of care. And local jurisdiction committee is a huge part of that and really drives Pathways Home forward, but also provides the perspective of local government to all of the other work that's going on in addressing homelessness. And so this is a really cool space where staff from each of the jurisdictions in the region are able to meet and share incredible work that they're doing, like what we just saw earlier, see where there are opportunities to build upon that or adapt it to their situations. It's also a space where cities can share challenges that they're facing, because chances are another jurisdiction has faced those before and might have already come up with an answer. So this work continues constantly, right? These committees meet once a month, and that gives a great opportunity to really define how, as this work moves forward, making sure that there's a constant reevaluation as to the best way to address all of these action items. Since things are constantly evolving, just making sure that everyone stays responsive to it in terms of current day. Lastly, since, like I said, this work is constantly ongoing, and you probably won't hear updates from me all the time. The great news is there's a new web page that launched not too long ago, which gives more frequent updates as to all of these action steps. So if you're on the MAG website, azmag.gov/homelessness, where that arrow that little arrow guy right there popped up, you can click there on the progress report page. It brings you here with some infographics and other summarized information, including those housing targets that I mentioned before, as well as brief one-pager takeaways that you can download and review that really dig into all of the different aspects of Pathways Home. Where do we go from here? Well, the work will never end, right? Hopefully it does someday, but for now, at least, we're still looking at all of these templates and frameworks that exist. Things change, but they need to remain responsive as we learn new lessons, as the landscape of homelessness changes. So just touching back on those, making sure they're still effective and valuable. Finding new ways to learn from each other, make sure that the community is still engaged and rallying around this common theme. As I discussed before, issue constantly evolving, making sure that it's responsive. And then lastly, digging into specific areas as part of Pathways Home. You also uncover new ones that we probably didn't think about before, right? So, something that was defined in Pathways Home earlier was just how do we increase prevention programs or diversion programs to, stop homelessness before it happens. And that's something that maybe when initially looking at Pathways Home and approving the plan, wasn't as high of a priority, but moving forward, it really shows that, okay, maybe we can dig into this a little bit more and it has more of an impact than we thought. So constantly evolving, changing, really encourage, members of the committee to talk with staff, understand what's happening in their city, other cities, and just staying up to date with the work, the incredible work going on by experts like Ryan and others. That's all I have today. I'm really happy to take questions either now or my contact information is on there. This presentation has a lot of hyperlinks and fun stuff that will be posted on the MAG website. I'm sure Kelly will send it out as well. And yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Any questions? Looking around. One thing that comes to mind is you talk about a monthly meeting with staff, city staff. Am I correct? Okay. And how is that going? I mean, and that's kind of I know that on our end, we want this connection, right, to happen to, as we're talking about today, to steal ideas and programs and to advocate. How's that going with that?
Yeah. So local jurisdiction committee is really interesting because it brings so many people together. It's kind of unlike the other committees within the continuum of care because of that unique opportunity. But what does make it really special is how everyone does have such unique experiences, right? And so it's sort of a balancing act of making sure everyone is still updated while also affording the opportunities to hear directly from individual cities that want to highlight something. So it's definitely evolved over time. And something that we're looking at now is like alternative ways to engage those conversations and make sure that they're ongoing and consistent. So for example, there's a new sort of like forum that is exclusive to members of that committee where even if it's not during the meeting, they can still go online, post something exciting that happened. Other people can see it and react to it, which makes sure that this conversation isn't just happening once a month, right? So, if those meetings get filled up with needing to provide feedback to other projects in the continuum of care, making sure that everyone has the opportunity to really share what matters to them.
Now, are those, so apologize, are those meetings in person, online, both?
They're online. Mm-hmm.
They're online. Is there a possibility, I know at least once a year, to have a bigger meeting with city staff? And the reason why I say this is often, the teams meetings and stuff would get a little distracted too. I think having at least possible that happening in person, I don't know if that could be an initiative just to kind of overview the year, but I think you also get some good information and then the translation of programs on great and faults, within those programs. I don't know. I put that out there.
Yeah. No, thank you for that suggestion. It's definitely something that members have expressed interest in. There are, of course, challenges because it does encompass the entire region. So you do have cities that are a little farther out, more difficult to travel. But ultimately, this committee is a space where that can happen, and that's exciting in and of itself. So any sort of creative solutions to making those connections even stronger is really something that we'd look into.
And that's why I bring it up. My last thing is, any of these incentives, are they being lobbied? I mean, is the group able to lobby to the state some resources to help the cities out? Does it have that kind of teeth? I mean, or is that a possibility to engage in?
Yeah, so I would say ultimately what the role that it plays, right, is really information based, right? Making sure that the need is understood and also the scope of ongoing work. So I wouldn't say right now there's any active lobbying efforts or strengthen in that direction specifically. But making sure that the landscape is readily available and, on the same page.
No, I appreciate it. I think, and I'll leave it to others, but, just having that ability to, I know there's many subject matters within MAG and stuff, but very important, right? We're touching a lot of things, housing, homelessness, a lot of the stuff, but some of these priorities and just showing some of these programs at a state level or advocating as a group, because there's money that could be distributed out to various cities, but having that same voice, I think is huge.
Can I jump in real quick? Excuse me, Chair Navarro and members of the committee. Two things. One, we look to the Arizona Housing Coalition for lobbying. They're our advocacy arms and they are actively involved in the conversation. So if we do need to have advocacy, that's not the role of MAG, but we do definitely look to the coalition to help us with that work. Secondly, and I sincerely apologize, we have had a tech glitch at MAG. We have a webinar that is starting at 11:30 under the same Zoom account. So we need to end this Zoom account only briefly, and we are going to email you a new Zoom link to return to the meeting. And I'm very sorry for the complication in this, but we're going to do that right now. So we're going to end for just a second. Please check your email and rejoin with us. We only have a few minutes left of the meeting, but to keep quorum, we'd really appreciate it if you would rejoin. Thank you.